The judge's ruling this week brings gay couples one step closer to the right to marry. Judge Kevin Chang said the state of Hawaii failed to prove a compelling state interest in refusing to recognize same-sex unions. He rejected arguments that gay men and lesbians cannot effectively raise children. The ruling is on hold now, pending a state appeal. But the three couples named in the case say they will just extend their engagements a bit longer. Joining us this morning to talk about the consequences of gay marriage, Peter LaBarbera, who is with the Lander Report on Homosexuality. That is a critical monitor of the gay rights movement. Also with us, Bodiford, who is a lawyer in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who is helping to organize a mass gay commitment ceremony for Valentine's Day. We thank you both for joining us. Mr. LaBarbera, let me start with you and the Hawaii case itself. What it means, does it signify in your mind the likelihood that there are going to be a lot of tests of this ruling now, that a lot of gay couples will use this opportunity to go to Hawaii and get married, to test it out in the States?
Yes, we already know that's going to happen, Joey. We expect homosexual couples to fly to Hawaii en masse and come back and challenge. Once it's approved, which we're all expecting on both sides, we're going to see couples coming back and challenging it in every state.
Ms. Bodiford, do you think that that is going to happen?
That is going to happen, and of course that is absolutely going to happen, and that is where it will be fought out on a state-by-state basis. In the meantime, gays and lesbians, and we must remember that we won't expect to see gays and lesbians actually marrying in Hawaii until late 1997 or 1998. In the meantime, we must remember that gays and lesbians today are living in loving and committed relationships, and across the states they desire to marry. And in Fort Lauderdale, we are hosting a series of events called Winter Gala 97 to celebrate gay pride and culture in February 14th to February 17th, the President's Day weekend. And as part of that series of events, we will be having a mass gay commitment ceremony called the Love Celebration. This celebration is expected to be the largest gay commitment ceremony in the world. Lesbians and gay couples will pledge their commitment to one another. Those who are interested in participating should call 954-525-4527.
I don't think we're doing an advertisement here for that.
No, but I'm trying to get the word out. This is very important in terms of...
Let's talk further about the issue itself, though. Mr. LaBarbera, if we can talk about your concerns. Is the issue, in your mind, a matter of religious faith? Is it motivated by that, or do you have a broader sense of concern about what
Joey, it's motivated. People oppose this from all walks of life, not just for religious reasons. A lot of people are concerned about where we're headed as a society. They're concerned that we're promoting this confusion of the idea that two men and two women can actually get married. And most people, whether they're religious or not, just have always assumed marriage is between a man and a woman. Many people are concerned what this is going to mean for schools. We've already heard gay activists say that if once homosexual so-called marriage is legalized, we will see this taught in schools. Many people, religious or not, are very concerned about that.
Ms. Bodiford, do you see that there is a movement that is, after all, I mean, even the president has said that this is not something that would be recognized by the federal government. Do you see a positive movement for your side?
I absolutely do. I think that what we see is that many people talk about the traditional definition of marriage. And what we see, if we look back historically, and not so long ago, the traditional definition of marriage is an evolving definition. 30 years ago, the traditional marriage did not include interracial couples. In the past, the traditional definition of marriage defined the wife as a property of her husband. We don't see that anymore. The divorce laws are no longer require you to go to Reno to end your marriage. So this is an evolving concept.
Yes,
gays and lesbians want and desire to marry for the same reasons that anyone else wants to marry, and the whole.
But the problem is, Joey, this problem of equating this with the end of bans on interracial marriage really has a lot of minorities troubled. I've talked to so many blacks and Hispanics who are very, very offended that they're using this analogy. Obviously, most people think that was a racist law, and they don't agree with that. But the sentiment against homosexual so-called marriage is only growing the more education people get. In Hawaii, the polls show now 75% of the people are against homosexual so-called marriage, and so what they see this as is litigating from the bench, the same sort of judicial tyranny.
In fact, when you're looking at something like a basic human right to marry, marry.
It's not a basic human right.
This cannot be based on a popularity poll.
In fact,
we have seen
traditionally,
I'm speaking, please. We have seen traditionally that the rights of the minorities must be protected by the courts and by the legislature. And in fact, the polls show that the more American people learn that gays and lesbians are just real people, we're not boogeymen, we're just like you, and we desire to marry, we raise children.
Ms. Bodiford, isn't there a distinction, although there are many people in the United States who might accept homosexual relationships as something that they are aware of, something that they know is present, but isn't there a difference in their minds when you talk about marriage, something that is state-sanctioned, and something that might lead to additional benefits for partners?
In fact, the court in Hawaii clearly found that gays and lesbians would pose, allowing gays and lesbians to enter into civil marriage would pose absolutely no threat to the heterosexual marriages. And as far as benefits, gays and lesbians simply want the rights and the responsibilities that come along with civil marriage. The court found that gay couples suffer significantly in horrendous ways by the denial of the right to inherit. We are denied the right to be at the bedside of our partner, no matter how long we have been living together in a loving, supportive family relationship.
But one of the other issues, and one of the issues that is particular to this case, had to do with raising children. Mr. LaBarbera, this question of raising children, in the judge's ruling, what he was saying is that the state had not been able to prove a compelling state interest to preserve the sanctity of being able to raise children in gay couples.
Well, Joey, first of all, a lot of people on our side believe that the side on the Attorney General did not push a good case in Hawaii. But let's go to the children. We already know that many homosexual couples will use so-called legal marriage to promote adoption rights. Americans, by an overwhelming majority, are opposed to adoption of children by homosexuals. This is going to facilitate that. As I said before, this will facilitate the teaching of that homosexuality is just an alternative normal lifestyle in schools. I mean, also, many people believe that a society that promotes homosexuality, that institutionalizes homosexual couples, pretending that somehow this is the same as a man and a woman getting married, that is not good for the long-term health of society.
Joey, I think it's significant. We need to focus on the fact that the state in Hawaii was unable to prove. This case has been going on since 1991. It's 1996. The state was unable to show that children were harmed by being raised by gays and lesbians, and in fact, the opposite was proved, that gays and lesbians raise healthy, normal children.
Those are tendentious studies, Robin, and you know it, I think.
Well,
those
the experts for both the state and
heavily on a lesbian
plaintiffs.
Whether the studies prove one way or the other, in fact, whether you can come to X number of studies that prove one side and X number of studies that prove the other side, isn't it true, though, that what the judge did is open a door, in a sense, for other custody battles over lesbian and gay couples pursuing custody?
Certainly. This case is going to have very good ramifications across the United States, where gays and lesbians engage in custody battles, where there has not been the in-depth analysis of custody issues as there has been in the Hawaii case. As we've discussed, Joey, it's a 5-year court battle where the state's own experts and evidence prove that gays and lesbians raise healthy, happy, normal children.
Joey, the problem is, and we're already seeing it, is that homosexual couples are winning adoption of children after a marital breakup, and it's just a travesty.
The state's own experts in Hawaii proved that gays and lesbians raise healthy children, and not only that,
Robin,
the state's own experts
Robin, you interrupted me.
in favor of adoption.
I think you interrupted Mr. LaBarbera.
Everybody knows it's common sense that a child is better off with a mom and a dad than 2 mothers or 2 fathers. It's outrageous that we're giving the children to homosexual couples. It's just outrageous.
But did this case open up the door for more of those custody issues to be decided in favor of the lesbian and gay parents?
Yeah, Joey, of course, and that's another problem with this. We're seeing these ridiculous situations where children are being put with homosexual couples rather than a mother and a father.
I think that what is significant here is Mr. LaBarbera brings his religious beliefs to the table. And in fact, his religious beliefs are entitled to honor and respect. And I honor and respect his right to disagree. However, The problem is when individuals like Mr. Barbara want to encourage the government to take a position based on his religious beliefs.
Robin,
and that
that's
is
outrageous.
not our country is.
Don't make this as a religious thing.
Founded on
Robin, it's
the
common
freedom
sense.
for
Children need a
different
mother and a
opinions
father.
to coexist. However, when your religious beliefs impinge on my right to marry, then we have a problem, and that's not what this country is about. It's about equal access.
But unfortunately, we do have to break here. We appreciate both of you joining us, Ms. Bodiford, Mr. LaBarbera. We appreciate your joining us as well.
Thank you.
We will take a break here and return with more of CNN Sunday Morning. Please stay tuned.
This week on Issues, the Boy Scouts are under fire for banning homosexuals. Will the group's stance hurt their funding in Broward County?
Tonight I ask for your support on the basis of the better, fairer, more prosperous America we can build together.
And the Democratic Convention wraps up. We'll compare both major parties' messages and what they mean to South Florida. Vice President Al Gore and Texas Governor George W. Bush have spoken out in their party's national conventions. We'll take a close look at their messages and respective party platforms and the impact they could have on South Florida voters. But first, the Boy Scouts have been making headlines after a U.S. Supreme Court ruling allowed them to ban gay troop leaders. Now the Broward County Commission is considering cutting public funds to the Scouts if they decide that this group discriminates. The county gives about $90,000 a year to the Boy Scouts. With us now for this discussion is Robin Bodiford, an attorney in private practice in Fort Lauderdale. Ms. Bodiford is also co-founder of the Domestic Partnership Ordinance approved by the Broward County Commission. Also with us is Eladio Jose Armesto, president of the Democratic League of Miami-Dade County. Mr. Armesto was communications director of the group Take Back Miami-Dade, which sought to repeal Miami-Dade's ordinance on sexual orientation. He's also a member of the Eagle Scouts. Making up our panel of journalists are Wingate Payne, editorial board member of the Miami Herald's Broward Bureau, and Ed Wasserman, editor-in-chief of the Daily Business Review. Welcome all to the program. We'd like to say before we start that we invited the representatives of the Boy Scouts of South Florida to participate in this discussion, but they declined to join us. Let me ask you, Ms. Bodiford, do you think the Boy Scouts are a bad organization?
Absolutely not. I don't think they're a bad organization. I am deeply saddened, and I join with thousands of fair-minded Americans here in Broward County and across the nation that feel betrayed by this very sad stance that they've taken with regard to discrimination against gay boys and gay members.
Did you not know that the Boy Scouts stood for very traditional family values? They have not changed.
Well, when I was a girl, I was a Brownie, and I was a Girl Scout, and I was never taught to discriminate against anyone. I was taught to be honest and fair and to protect the rights of others, and I believe that those are the basic tenets of the Boy Scouts as well. There's nothing in the Boy Scout handbooks or manuals that indicate that discrimination against gay boys or exclusion of gay members or leaders is part of the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts' tenets are to teach children to be honest, to be what they define morally straight, I believe, is to be honest and above board and open in your dealings with others, and to protect and preserve and to respect the rights of other people.
Yeah, but isn't the issue not whether the Boy Scout policy is regrettable, but whether the county has a right to withdraw funding for to the Boy Scouts for their doing something the Supreme Court said they're within their rights to do?
Well, I'm very glad you asked that question, because that's a great question. The Supreme Court did indeed say that the Boy Scouts, as a private organization, have the right to discriminate. What the Supreme Court did not say was that it was right to discriminate, number one. Number two, the Boy Scouts are a private organization. The Supreme Court found that they were a private organization, notwithstanding the fact that the New Jersey Supreme Court found that they were a public organization. And the reason for that disagreement is that the Boy Scouts are funded, they're sponsored, they're actually owned and operated by government entities across the country.
May I